so far. So I think the tipping point has been reached. Tesla's getting too big. Apple, that would have been a weird play for an Apple car or taking over Tesla anyways. I think Tesla's not going to be interested in any legacy automotive manufacturing. Everything they're building is brand new. They're building gigafactories everywhere. All their stuff is, way ahead of what other manufacturers are doing as far as being more efficient and cost effective. So I think Tesla's here to stay, and I don't think they're going to buy anybody. And while it's not over the hump of total of being Tesla making it through everything, I think that's here to stay.
So I used to be an Apple fanboy before I jumped on the Elon Tesla bandwagon. So like my dream is Apple acquires Tesla and makes Elon CEO and gives him like full control. Imagine that, right? With the cash reserves that Apple has, and Elon's just like, he's just a good human being trying to do good things in the world. I just think that would be amazing for the world. So I definitely vote on that. I also have this prediction. You guys may disagree with me, but in 5 years, I think the automotive space is going to go through a huge shakeup, and it's going to be very similar to what happened with mobile phones. Right now in your phones, you either have Apple iPhone or Google Android, right? And maybe one other, what's the Chinese? Like 2 or 3. I think that's what's coming. Like the revolution that we're seeing right now, it's all gonna just, and I think what's gonna happen, this is my prediction, again, somebody record this in 5 years and laugh at me, but I think the number one company, the Apple, the iOS of the world will be Tesla. They're the ones that started it. The iPhone of our automotive was the Model 3. I think Rivian will be the Google, or Rivian's been very quiet, but guys, like the serious money behind Rivian. I don't think that's the first time Amazon's going to invest in it. They're going to keep pouring money into it. They're going to make Rivian into a big play. And the controversial thing that I'm going to say is I think all the other OEMs today, Audi, Ford, the names that we're used to, I think they'll all be one company in 5 years. Because what I'm seeing right now is very scary. I was all about like the Tesla killer. I'm like, please bring it on. That only helps our mission, Tesla's mission. But what I'm seeing right now, the Porsche Taycan and the range issues it's having, like there's a lot of talk in Super Bowl ads, but like I'm just kind of scared that these guys are not taking this seriously. So what that's going to happen is the consumers are going to put them out of business basically, because they're going to stop buying these cars, and they'll have to keep combining forces. So it'll be this one large OEM. I don't even know what it's going to be called. It's a combination of Ford, GM, and Porsche. Like
They should just come out and call themselves Big Oil. Oh.
So that's my prediction.
One more point about Tesla. Right now, they command the vast lion's share of the market for EVs, and I don't see that changing. But we're starting to see the beginnings of software as a service with this company. They're going to own the profits too.
I follow this stuff really closely. Have you guys heard of ARK Invest? You guys have probably seen them on CNBC too. I'm on a call with ARK every Friday for 2 hours. Like Kathy is a good friend of mine. So I followed ARK. I've been an investor of Tesla's for a long time, huge fanboy. But ARK has probably called this better than anybody, because people laughed at ARK a few years ago, but now everybody's inviting them to CNBC because their models, which seem ludicrous, are conservative, is what we're seeing now. And ARK recently released some data that in 2018, 1.5 million roughly EVs were sold worldwide, but 80% of that is in China. China is just like, I think China's going to be a very interesting story for the EV story in the next 5 years. And of the rest of the 20%, I think 17 or 18% of the market cap is Tesla, right, of the EV space. And then in 2019, they estimated 2 million roughly. So there's a little bit of a bump. But ARK is saying over the next 5 years, 37 million new cars sold will be electric vehicles. Worldwide, there are about 90 million cars sold, so over a third EVs. Like, you guys probably somewhat believe it, but most people do not, that are not in our community, that don't understand what's going on, that have never sat in a Tesla, they think this is ludicrous. But what we're seeing is this could be a very, very real thing.
By late spring, if you count VINs, Tesla will have made 1 million Model 3s. And that's, China's coming online now. It's crazy. It's going to take off.
Of those 1 million Model 3s,
the question that lurks me. We heard all of you guys say that battery tech is where it's at. I agree with you. Okay, I think you're right. But ultimately lurking out there is the whole question of autonomy. And then the minute we get into that domain, we get into what does autonomy mean. The first panel generally came to the conclusion not to hold your breath. Okay, they talked about autopilot and they talked about all the cool things that Tesla's doing right now, but don't hold your breath. I'm curious, do you guys agree with that assessment over a 5-year timeline? And also, what is the real future of autonomous fleets, which is really a major disruptive change in the way we look at the automotive world? So I guess those kind of general issues are what this question is about. I don't know where we want to start. Eli, you want to jump in hard?
How many people here have a Tesla with autopilot? Okay, awesome, a good percentage. So anybody who's had one of these cars over a year or two, especially if they had one before about March of 2018, they have seen massive improvements in AP 2.0 over the last couple of years. And unlike most technologies that improve on a rather logarithmic type scale, these type neural net driven technologies that are powered by AI, they improve. When they do improve, they improve exponentially. So I think it is not a hold your breath type scenario for over the next 5 years to see a minimum of level 3 self-driving, but I think it's very reasonable to expect level 4, level 5 self-driving. And the scale, for those of you guys who aren't super familiar with it, it goes from just level 1, which is human driving, all the way to level 5, which is human intervention never needed. Level 4 being kind of this middle-ish ground where it can handle practically all situations, but there will be certain roads that it will disable for. So like, for example, a dirt road with no lane markings. Is that going to matter for most people? No. So I think one of the things that, just more of like the don't hold your breath piece, I was initially a little more optimistic that we would see street level autopilot this year. That was going to be really working, and Elon was pretty bullish on that through all of 2019. But then unfortunately in this year's investor call, he let us know that they actually did a rewrite to the 3D object labeling system, and that this year it'll have a larger than 0% chance from going to point it from your home to your destination without intervention. So I don't think this year is going to be the year that we see like a super effective street level autopilot, but assuming that their redesign on that system works, and I'm optimistic that it will. Now that's going to be really leveraging the neural processing units in AP 3.0, that going into 2021, we're going to start getting a really effective street level autopilot that's very similar to the experience that a lot of us already have today with autopilot on freeways.
There is such a thing as Elon time, remember?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I guess this is definitely like a fanboy type response. I do think definitely in the next 5 years they'll have it. 5 years ago, or 5 or 6 years ago, when we bought our first Model S, my wife and I decided to do a road trip from Houston, Texas to Fremont. We wanted to go check out the factory, but drive in our Tesla and experience it. So this is autopilot 1.0 days and super early infrastructure-wise with superchargers and stuff. And I mean, on highways, the thing drove. This was before all the accidents where now you have to like tug at the wheel every like 10 seconds. I used to just like, and all my friends were like, you're insane, but like, a lot's happened between 5 years ago and now. I think it's especially when it comes to technology, like you're surprised what can happen. Things don't move fast within a few weeks or months, but over a year time spent in tech, in 5 years, this question is going to seem silly to us, in my opinion. We're like, of course, autopilot's a real thing. Right now, it seems like a dream, but if 10 years ago when Steve Jobs had the first iPhone, if we said our lives would be run by this stuff, we would have laughed. I think autopilot to me or self-driving is probably the hardest technological challenge that humanity is trying to. I think it's a big deal. The reason I think we're going to figure it out is this is where like Tesla, I think Kathy from ARC, when she was on CNBC, kind of mentioned Tesla is in this middle of this huge revolution that's going on in multiple spaces, right? There's the EV revolution taking place, there's autonomy, and then like AI, and Tesla is just crushing it on all, and they're the one company that like It's like they're doing it all at the same time and they're doing it well. Even the Googles of the world, I think Tesla has the right approach with what they're doing. This network of cars, every day when you guys are driving your Teslas, you're helping Tesla. They're collecting data, the supercomputer is learning better and better. So especially a 5-year time frame, I totally expect in 5 years that I'll leave my house, put my car on full self-driving and go to sleep and wake up, you know, in California. We'll come visit Brooks in Miami, go race some cars.
You don't do that already?
Look,
5 years is a long time.
I'm waiting for when it can detect the tree at the drag strip and automatically go. That's doable
what
right
he
now.
wants.
That'd be
amazing.
Yeah,
It's
so
just wants that 000
I want the
RT.
perfect reaction time to take these guys out. So, I mean, I've been using autopilot since autopilot 1, 2. I mean, where you just get on the road and it wouldn't bug you at all. Now it bugs you every, I don't know, 35 seconds at 80 miles an hour. I think a lot has to be done. I think it's pretty far away. I mean, if you look at where we're at now, you can look at what smart someone will do in a parking lot, and I've done some tests, and you can definitely run into some situations if you're not paying very close attention.
Was police involved?
That's fake news.
Fake news.
So yeah, my Tesla got pulled over by a police officer with nobody in it, kind of.
If you guys haven't seen the video, go to Brooks's Drag Times YouTube channel and watch it. It's
I had to take
hilarious.
it down. Yeah, he got in trouble.
Oh, shit.
So, anyways, so I think, you know, as we progress and cars become more autonomous, there's a lot of ethics issues that comes into play, like making decisions about if there was a major crash coming up, like who do you save, right? If you're in the car versus somebody else, and someone's not going to make it, and this computer has to make that decision, where does that go? Because that's going to come up, right? You're going to run into ethics. You're going to run into, you know, how many people are going to die if we go this way, or you know, how bad will it be? Now, as the cars get safer, maybe that level of danger comes down. If they're all connected, then you can kind of prevent that stuff. But I think that's a long time away. I'm excited about it. I use autopilot every day. I really rely on it. My wife hates it because she's always scared. She's over here. It makes her nervous. But I'm pretty comfortable with it. I mean, after you drive every day for, you know, 3, 4, 5 years, you understand what autopilot's capable of and what it's not. So, I mean, the city street stuff, you can see the visualizations now. That's coming pretty soon, so I'm excited about that. But I think, you know, going to sleep and waking up when you're there, maybe certain routes will be really, really well mapped, and you can do that in like busy cities and stuff like that. But, you know, navigating a parking lot with strollers and kids and all that kind of stuff, it can get kind of sketchy. So.
Would you guys agree or disagree that probably Tesla's biggest advantage right now is its data set? Is the fact that data set is being populated with terabytes of information on a regular basis, or do you think it is some other aspect of their AI capability, either the people that they have or the overall architecture that they're developing? That's a pretty techie question, but it's an interesting question nonetheless.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I think Tesla has the right idea. I mean, Elon did say that they were going to go down the harder route and do everything visually rather than rely on LiDAR, which is what everybody else is really doing at this point. And he said that, you know, mark my words, the other guy's going to paint themselves into a corner with LiDAR. Now, I'm not for or against or anything like that, but I do agree that going down the harder road will give them a larger data set and be able to spread this out. I mean, literally every Tesla made in the last, 5 years, I guess, have the autopilot hardware in there. Now, whether you use it or not, that data is still being collected and verified against their algorithms that they're sending out over the air. So having that large fleet, rather than something like a Waymo that's been mapping San Francisco for like the last 5 years, that's a solved problem for them. But when you get off in the boonies, I mean, what do? We as human drivers, I mean, we don't have radar and we don't have 360 degree, we have 2 eyes. So if Tesla can solve this in a visual system, and let's face it, I mean, this is my second Tesla. The first car that I had, my Model X, only had hardware 2. And when I first got the car, it wasn't even on level with hardware 1 cars. I mean, they had to rewrite all that software. And then through subsequent updates, I saw a vast improvement in autopilot. I think personally right now with autopilot, at least on the highways, I drove 1,600 miles in less than 26 hours to get here 95% of that was on autopilot. I think personally on the highways, it's largely a solved problem. The harder stuff is the urban areas, right? That's really tough. But we're starting to see, you know, for those of you who have FSD with the latest software update, you get the new visualization. So you can see that they're making improvements at least with what the cameras see. They're not necessarily acting on it yet, but you can see that, look, we're showing you what we can see. And if you actually go to Tesla's autopilot page right now, they got some amazing new videos that'll blow your mind as to what these computers actually can see. So I think at this point, based on what I can see here, is that largely the visual part of it, you know, is getting there to the point where, okay, we can probably flip the switch in. It's not like Tesla's going to flip the switch and all of a sudden the cars are going to drive themselves. This is going to be a staged thing as they go. But I think they're getting very close now. I mean, the hardest part really is working on the algorithms. You know, it's all the edge case stuff. That's the scary stuff, right? What was it, the Autonomy Day video that they did last year? You know, they had a guy